The Mac Observer's Mac Geek Gab episode 877 for Monday, June 21st, 2021. Folks, and welcome to the Mac Observer's Mac Geek Gab, the show where you send in your questions, your tips, your cool stuff found. We take your questions, we take your tips, we take your cool stuff found, we share them, we try to answer the questions, we try to add as much information and find as much information such that each of us gets to learn at least 5 new things every single time we get together. That's our goal. That can be your goal too. Sponsors for this episode include Linode.com/MGG, Fastmail.com/MGG, and Headspace.com/MGG, where you get a free 1-month trial there for Headspace. We'll talk more about each of those in depth in a few minutes. For now, here in Durham, New Hampshire, I'm Dave Hamilton.
And here in Fairfield, Connecticut, this is John F. Braun.
How are we today, Mr. John F. Braun?
Adequate.
Adequate is, you know what? That's a bar to hit. I'll take it. Yeah. After the last year plus, whatever it's been, adequate. That's, it's not terrible. So there you go. I'm glad to hear you're at least adequate, my friend. I think you're more than adequate, but it's about how you feel. Peter has a quick tip for us, John. Peter says, did you know that when you are on the desktop of your Mac, so, highlight an icon on your desktop or otherwise don't have a window highlighted in the Finder, Command plus and Command minus will resize your desktop icons. I had no idea. I didn't even know that you could do this, let alone knowing that you could do it with Command plus and minus. Evidently, you can do it if you go to Finder's, view options in the menu there, if you're on the desktop and there's a little slider. And of course, hitting Command plus and minus moves that slider. But I had no idea. It's not in the shortcut. It's not in the menu. There's no. Yeah. Yep. It's just one of those hidden things. Beautiful little quick tip. I love it. And we got this from somebody else. I think listener Mark sent this in this morning too, perhaps. Yeah, it's a good one. So yeah, thanks for that, Peter. Good stuff.
All right. Chris has one for you, Dave, from a past episode. We were talking about screenshots, and Chris says, I'm 99.9% sure you know this, but didn't mention it in the last episode where you discussed where screenshots go. You said you wished instead of going into Photos, you would like screenshots to go someplace else in iOS. I'm not sure about automatically, but if you open the screenshot snippet that pops up, then say done, you'll get a screen like the one below and can save the screenshot wherever you want. Or at least it gives you more than one option. So.
Interesting. Right. I never thought about that. But you're right. Yeah. You get the save to files option. And of course, I save mine to Synology Drive, but I can, Synology Drive is linked into files, so I could save it there. Yeah. All right. It's like you said, it's not automatic. It's probably easier. I wonder if there's a Hazel way to do this or some sort of automated way on my Mac to take things that fall into the screenshots category in Photos and have them automatically moved or even copied, I suppose, to right into the screenshots folder that I have synced amongst my Macs. I don't know. I need to think. Because it's not a folder. It's just it's a smart album or something. So, but I bet there's a way to automate something like that. I'll have to think about that. All right, cool. Yeah. Thank you, Chris. Thanks, John. That's good.
Screenshots. Man. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And you can set on your Mac, bonus quick tip. By default, screenshots are saved to your desktop folder, but you can save them anywhere you want. And OnyX has a parameters section where you can change lots of parameters, including the destination of your screenshots on your Mac. And Also, you can set what format screenshots are in. You can choose like JPEG or PNG, or I think you can even have them save it as a PDF if you want. I don't have it open in front of me, but yeah, OnyX will let you sort of tweak those things. So I have on all my Macs, I have set it to a shared folder in, like I said, in Synology Drive, but you could use Dropbox or whatever. In fact, I think Dropbox I think it was Dropbox that inspired this, because they used to have a way to, like, in their app, you could check a box and say, save all your screenshots to Dropbox, which is where this started for me, because it's awesome to have my screenshots all available on all three of the Macs that I use on a regular basis, in Office, Studio, and laptop. So, yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. So, yeah, and you kind of suggested it, but when you do the screenshot, there's an options button, and that gives you the choice of where to save it. Timer. Never used that before. I'll have to play with that.
Right.
And some other options. So
that's good. Yeah. Cool. All right. Let's see. Moving to listener Scott. Staying on the iPhone, Scott says, I often have to send someone's contact information in an email when using one of my iOS devices. Of course, you can use the share contacts function at the bottom of the appropriate record inside the contacts app, but I've always found that to be a cumbersome process. Open contacts, find the contact, create the card, copy it to the email, etc. It's a nuisance. A faster way is to simply enter the email address into one of the fields, like the CC or BCC field in the email. Then just drag that address down into the body of the email, and it will magically form a ready-made V-card with all of that contact's info. Then just delete the email address that you entered into that field, presuming you don't want to send the email to that person, and you're done. He says this only works in iOS, not Mac OS. He says, I'm mystified as to why, because it's so handy. For someone like me, whose laptop is an iPad Pro and who works on their phone a lot, this is a super shortcut. I wonder if Monterey, if Mail in Monterey would do this. That's a great little shortcut. Quick tip, man. I never, like, that's, I am curious if you stumbled onto that, Scott, or if you read it somewhere, because that's a great one. That's good. So cool.
All right. And Steve has one for me that I'll have to try. So in last week, in a prior show, I heard the segment where John was having problems importing pictures from his mom's camera. I had a similar problem. I have a Canon EOS 30D, nice, that I was trying to import pictures from. When I connected via the USB cable, nothing happened. There was no device in the Finder. However, like John, when I went to the Photos app, my camera was showing there, but it wasn't showing any pictures. It wasn't accessing the SD card. After the typical IT steps, power on, off, reset, unplug, replug, nothing happened. Then I happened to look up in the upper right of the window and see a button that labeled Import All. When I clicked it, my Mac started importing the pictures. All right, I'll have to look for that.
Huh. Yeah. Okay. That's a good tip. Like, when in doubt, look for the import. I mean, usually when you click import all, it's showing you all the thumbnails, but yeah. All right, cool. That's a good tip. Listener Matt has something to say for us, or to us.
Hey, John and Dave, and maybe Pilot Pete. Matt from North Carolina calling in with a quick tip. I may be the only one, but I don't think so. I love using Sign In with Apple. So anonymously, you can start an account and then log in. In this instance, I was doing it for DoorDash. So set up an account. That was all great. And then logged into the account, but I needed to get a hold of my password because I wanted to have one of my sons log in when he goes away to college and use this account, which I think is fair use. But since he doesn't have an Apple ID the same as ours, he can't just log in automatically, which is the way it works through Face ID or Touch ID. So just wanted to say that when you go to log into such an app, there's Use Apple, which is like a big black button. But below that, and you might miss it, there's also Use Another Apple ID. And so that's how another user can install that app, and it will actually allow them to be kind of a separate user, but also share. I hope this makes sense. Also share the actual account.
Yeah.
So good luck with that, and I hope that helps somebody out there who's looking to find out how to find the passwords when you log in through Apple Sign-In. You can't. It has to just be your Apple ID, but you can have different Apple ID folks sign in. Just don't hit that black button. Look below it and say sign in with another Apple ID. Thanks.
Awesome.
Don't get caught, guys.
Thanks, Matt. You too. Yeah, that's great. Okay, that's good to know. And this idea, at first I was like, well, why wouldn't your son just have his own DoorDash account? Well, you may be whatever they call them, DoorDash Plus members or whatever it is, where you pay $10 a month and then you save on fees when you use it, which we are. We became DoorDash, whatever it is, DoorDash Plus members during, over the last year when we were doing a lot of DoorDash. So sharing that with our kids who are at school, I agree. That seems like fair use to me. Don't get caught. All right. Ed has a quick tip. I set my iPhone to offload unused apps in order to save space. And you do that in Settings, App Store, Offload Unused Apps. Offload Unused Apps. It's easy for me to say, folks. The problem is, when I want to open an app that was offloaded, the phone tells me that it will open once installed. But then there's no progress indication. That's very annoying to me. Here comes the tip. Open the app by searching for it in the app library, which is on the last screen of the phone here in iOS 14. There, it will show you the typical sweeping clock progress on the app face. You still have to wait for the download, but you can at least tell how close it is to being done. Yeah, that's right, because you have to try and relaunch it after it finishes downloading. So, that's a great tip, because you could see it prior to having the app library, you could see it on the home screen, wherever it was on your home screen. But if you've shuffled the app off of your home screen and it only exists in the library, that's where you can look for it. I find the app library is good for a lot of those things, deleting apps, moving things around. Like, you can do stuff to the apps that are in that list there. It's not just a list. So maybe that's the meta quick tip. So, yeah.
Yeah. I don't really use it.
Do you have all of your apps on your home screen? Oh, yeah, no, I don't. I have one home screen now. I am all in on app library. Yeah. Well, when I got my new phone in the fall, I decided I would start fresh. And so I did not, I installed on my with my Apple ID, but I didn't restore from the cloud or anything. And the point was to only install apps that I was going to use. Deleting apps that you think you're not going to use never happens for me, because I'm like, well, I might want to use that, and then I don't delete it. But then I never use it. So I just installed apps as I went through. I still haven't put Waze on my phone. I've been using Apple Maps, and it's wonderful.
Oh,
yeah, I know. I used to hate Apple Maps, but it's like, well, let me try it without Waze, and it's been great. Go ahead.
No, I should give it another go, because the updated maps looks really slick.
It's awesome. Yeah, it's been great, and it really integrates well with CarPlay. No great surprise, but so does Waze. I mean, they do a good job with it too. I do keep Google Maps on my phone because that allows me to explicitly save offline maps, and I like to have offline maps of like my local area or areas to which I'm traveling. So I do use Google Maps for that purpose, just in case I find myself in a scenario. And it's happened a few times where it's like, like when we were out in Portland picking up Lucas, there was somewhere that we were, and it was like, sketchy service or whatever. And I was like, I need to drive. I was like, Google Maps. I pull it up and there you go. I was like, thank you, prior Dave, for saving future Dave's life, or, just saving my day, I guess. It didn't really save my life. But yeah, I have everything in App Library. I put very few things on the home screen, which has been fantastic. So that, that whole idea of clean slate, it works for a lot of reasons, or at least worked for me. All right. Tim, a follow-up from the last episode where we were talking about Apple Pay and the email address that is shared with people from whom you buy using Apple Pay. Tim says, I have a comment about that. You can actually set the default address for Apple Pay, the default email address in settings in iOS. Go into settings, wallet and Apple Pay, transaction defaults. And that's where you set it. So thank you for that, Tim. Great little quick tip. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Perhaps before we move on, anything on that one, John?
No. Look at that.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, look at that. Exactly. Yep. The things you didn't know were there until we looked. Listener Andrew shared what is certainly my favorite quick tip of the week. It might be my favorite quick tip of all time. He shared it it came via Andrew, but he heard about it on the Command Control Power podcast, which is another great show to listen to with lots of quick tips and things like that. The tip is that you can add modifier keys to your hot corners. So, when you go in and you set up a hot corner in, where is it? It's in desktop and screensaver. So you go to system preferences on your Mac, desktop and screensaver. Then in the lower right corner of screensaver, hot corners, ... that button. And you can pick what happens when you put your mouse in any one of the four corners of your screen real estate. But I've found that when I do that, if I have one that puts my screen to sleep. But sometimes I just move my mouse too far to the corner and it puts my screen to sleep. And I don't want my screen to be put to sleep. They have a solution for this, John, and I am happy to share it. I'm happy to know it, and I'm happy to share it. When you're choosing from that menu, hold down a modifier key like Command or Option. And now your hot corner needs that modifier key in order to be a hot corner. So now I have it so that Command and lower left corner of my screen puts the display to sleep, and, or Command in the upper right corner starts my screensaver, whatever you want to choose. But just hold down the Option key or the Command key and you'll see it. When that menu's open, it'll add that to the deal. Pretty cool, huh, John?
Huh.
Right?
So Shift, Control, Option, and Command. You can do any one of those. You can also combine them.
Mm-hmm. It's true.
So I could do like Control, Option, Command. I don't know why you'd want to have so many keys assigned to an action like that, but maybe to discourage yourself from accidentally hitting it. I don't know.
That's it. Yeah. Now I did try. I couldn't get different things for the corner. Like you can't do Command and one corner to be one thing and Command or Option and the same corner to be a different thing. There is, as near as I can tell, one action allowed per corner. That's it. But still, being able to need to put that key in there is a game changer for me, because now I'll actually use my hot corners again. So thank you to everybody that conspired to make that tip find its way to us. So very cool stuff. Donna, John, shares our last quick tip for the day here. She said, I opened Control Center and noticed that my flashlight icon was listed as unavailable. Not unusual. I can usually correct it by opening and then exiting the camera. So I opened the camera and saw a scary yellow triangle containing an exclamation point in the top left corner. When I touched the triangle, I received an important message, which I'd never seen before. Flash is disabled. We're not talking about Adobe Flash. We're talking about your flash, the flash of your camera. The iPhone needs to cool down before you can use the flash. So evidently her phone had gotten hot for whatever reason, and the flash is the first thing to turn off. So she wasn't getting any other temperature-related messages, just this one when trying to use the flash or flashlight. So I think that's the first thing that is sort of disabled, as the phone is stepping down its temperature threshold path, which I found fascinating, John. I don't know. I had never seen that before. Had you?
Yes.
Really?
And actually, a couple of weeks ago, when when I was taking a trip on the highway and running Waze, my phone gave the other one that you get. I think it's a red triangle, and it says, something similar. But it's just saying the error I got, it was just saying the phone's too hot. Here's the weird thing, though. It was still running.
Really? So it didn't shut down on you?
It shut off I guess it disabled the screen, because I guess that is a source of heat.
Sure. Were you also charging the phone at the same time? Like, did you have it plugged in? Okay.
And it was in a case also.
Okay, so case, screen, charging, and probably warm, like baking in the sun on near your dashboard or whatever, right?
Oh, that too. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I have a dark dashboard, so the heat radiating off of that.
There you go. Yeah. I've found I've been in those scenarios before, and I've found unplugging the phone for a little while is often enough to like allow me to keep using it. Yeah. So interesting. Fascinating. All right, cool. Thanks for all the quick tips, folks. Feedback at MacGeekGab.com is where you would send your quick tip in, or your question, or your cool stuff found. We love hearing from you, so make sure to send those in to us.
At feedback at MacGeekGab.com.
I said feedback at MacGeekGab.com. That is correct. All right, we have your questions to get to, hopefully some cool stuff found to get to. The next thing that I want to get to is our sponsors, if that works for you, Mr. Braun.
Absolutely.
All right. Our first sponsor today is Fastmail at fastmail.com/MGG, where you can not only try Fastmail free for 30 days, but then get 10% off your first year of email at Fastmail. And I just moved to Fastmail not that long ago. Quite frankly, it took me too long to decide to do this. I've been wanting to move to Fastmail for years for a lot of reasons. One is because they provide email for people who care about their privacy. And we've been talking a lot about that here, and Fastmail definitely is that. In fact, they say right on their website, you don't have to trade privacy for productivity. What I didn't know, I knew that about Fastmail. What I didn't know about Fastmail was how easy that migration was going to be. They just slurped in all of my Google Mail. Like, I just let them log into my, in their automated system. I let them log into my Google Mail account. It just slurped it all over. I went to sleep. I woke up. My mail was moved over. They made it so easy. And now I'm in control of my workflow with all the tools to do the things my way. And it can be like super simple or super powerful. They have things like labels and rules and automatic filtering and calendars and more. They support my custom domain. They've been doing this for over 20 years, longer than we've been doing this show. So you need to check this out. Like I said, you can be part of the very best in email at fastmail.com/MGG, where you can try Fastmail free for 30 days and then get 10% off your first year. Check it out, fastmail.com/MGG, and our thanks to Fastmail for sponsoring this episode. Next up is Headspace. I've told you that I've been a Headspace user on and off over the years, and I am back on again. And I'm even finding with the warm weather that I can use Headspace to meditate outside, in the sun, in the woods, by the pool, because Headspace is essentially this pocket-sized guide that helps me do this. And then because I meditate, now I sleep a little better, I can focus a little better, I can act a little better, because Headspace is my daily dose of mindfulness in the form of these guided meditations. And they're super easy because they tell you how long it's going to be, right? So if you've got 10 minutes, you can do a 10-minute meditation. If you've only got 3 minutes, you can do what they call their little SOS meditation. If you need help falling asleep, they've got meditations for that. They've got meditations you can do with your kids, and group meditations and solo meditations. Like, they know what they're doing, and that's because they're backed by 25 published studies on the benefits of how Headspace works. They've got over 600,000 five-star reviews, over 60 million downloads. You deserve to feel happier, and Headspace is meditation made simple. Go to headspace.com/MGG. That's headspace.com/MGG for a free 1-month trial with access to Headspace's full library of meditations for every situation. Like I said, free 1-month trial. That's the best deal offered right now. So head to headspace.com/MGG today, and our thanks to Headspace for sponsoring this episode. Look, we're geeks here, or we're becoming geeks here. That's what we do on this show. And we geeks, We need servers for things. And when you need a server, Linode is the place to go, because you can visit linode.com/MGG, create your free account with your Google or GitHub account or just your email address, and you get $100 in credit that you can use to spin up your server. And you can do all kinds of things with these servers. If you're a developer, you can use it for your development stuff. If you want to run your own VPN, you can do it that way. You want to run your own Plex server, you can do it that way. Imagine Plex in the cloud. It's amazing. Linode lets you do all kinds of stuff. And certainly if you want to be a real geek and get to the terminal, that's fine. I'm a real geek. I don't necessarily like to use the terminal. So there's different flavors of real geek, I suppose. And Linode's one-click apps allow me to deploy everything from all of this stuff. And it's fantastic because I don't have to deal with the terminal. I can just go through, click the right things, select the right options, and boom, my server is spun up. If I want to host my own WordPress site, whatever, it's all right there. And every plan comes with Linode's amazing human-powered customer support. If you need help, someone will pick up the phone, respond to your email, or reply to you on social media 24/7, 365. You got to check it out. If it runs on Linux, it runs on Linode. Visit Linode, linode.com/MGG. That's linode.com/MGG. Click on the Create Free Account button to get started. And our thanks to Linode for sponsoring this episode. All right, John. Let's. Jeff has a question. We've been talking about privacy here. Actually, talking about it with Fastmail. Jeff asks. He says, "I recently read a Macworld.com article about Apple's private relay and how it differs from a VPN. The author, Jason Cross, came close to but didn't directly answer a question I have concerning this new service. Is information sent and received via iCloud Private Relay encrypted such that I can safely access my bank account via Safari from a public Wi-Fi hotspot?" Okay, so the very short answer, and this would be my opinion, because there is no definitive answer to this, but the very short answer would be yes. There are two things to me that matter when accessing something from a public network, right? Now, iCloud Private Relay its stated purpose is more to protect you from being tracked in a variety of ways by your local network and by the places that you visit, right? And anyone in between. But there's two pieces that matter to me. Number one is, what data am I sending across? Like, once I'm connected to my bank, can anybody see the data? And then the second thing is, does anyone know that I'm connecting to my bank, right? And could they potentially, redirect where I'm going, a man-in-the-middle attack, those sorts of things. So number one is never a problem because all of our banks require us via our browsers to use encrypted connections. So the data that is being sent back and forth between me and my bank or you and your bank is encrypted, and no one gets to see that except you and your bank. So that's good. And of course, iCloud Private Relay added to that also, no problem. Where iCloud Private Relay or a VPN would help even more is with the second thing, and that is the DNS lookup, the connection that's happening to see what site you're going to try and visit. And with a VPN or Apple's iCloud Private Relay, all of that information is sent across the secure tunnel. So the local network at your coffee shop or whatever is not responsible for resolving that lookup. They don't know that you made that lookup. They don't know what site you're connecting to. So yes, in that sense, iCloud Private Relay works similarly to a VPN in that it solves those two problems for you. So yeah, I think iCloud Private Relay is very safe for banking activity and lots of other things too. So yeah, I'm a big fan of what Apple's doing with iCloud Private Relay. If that hasn't been obvious in the last 3 episodes or 2 episodes, I suppose.
Yeah, what it may cause, and a VPN would cause this as well, is I've had this happen before. So if I use Private Relay, I suspect this would happen again, is some sites, when you come to them, they're like, hey, I haven't seen you before. You got to authenticate. Excuse me. So that may happen more often.
Yes.
If you use a VPN or something like that. Because as far as it knows, yeah, I mean, you are a new computer.
That's right. You're coming from a new IP address. That's a good point. Yeah, you will be coming from one of the addresses, the exit node addresses of the private relay, instead of wherever you actually are. So yeah, I get that with some of my banks often, where it's like, oh, you're in a different location. In fact, with my IP address changes more frequently now with my fiber connection on Consolidated than it ever did with my Comcast connection. I probably kept the same IP address for years, easily months, probably years. But with fiber, I'm finding it changes fairly frequently. I don't obsess about it. There's not too many things where I see this as a problem, but I will occasionally get exactly those messages like, hey, you're coming from somewhere new. Can you do your 2-factor thing for me? And it's like, sure, I'll do the little dance. It's fine. So yeah. Interesting. More on that, or time to go to Tony?
Yeah, I don't know about Tony here. Yeah, I don't know if I know the answer here. Apple has changed the rules for tracking and for asking to be able to track. This app seems to be breaking the rules. Why is Apple allowing this?
He sends along a screenshot of Words with Friends, right?
And it's asking the question.
Right.
Can I track you? So I guess they're just being persistent.
I think that's it, John. Yeah. So the screenshot that Tony sent along, and he posted on Medium about this too. So you can see the screenshot. This is a screenshot from the app itself saying, hey, tracking, it's marketing, it's persuasion is what this is. Okay, so it's a little screen explaining why you want to let them track you. Okay. And it even has an agree button on it. Now, it doesn't need an agree or a decline button, although they can do some different functionality with your input from that button. But this doesn't control whether or not the app can track. All that this screen controls is whether the app then tells iOS to ask you if you want to be tracked. Now, if you have gone in to the settings, privacy, and tracking and turned off the option to never allow apps to ask you to track, then this screen seems weird, because even if you hit agree here, you won't get the Apple prompt as to whether or not you want to let this app track you, because you've said, don't ask me. So the app is asking you, will you please say yes to the next prompt you're about to see? That's really what they're doing. And by having the agree icon there, they get you in the habit of saying yes. And then the next thing comes up, and they're even showing you a little screenshot that says, slide the allow tracking to be yes. And they say 82% of players toggle allow tracking. Well, it might be 82% of a group of, 20 Words with Friends 2 employees that work on the development team so that they can track themselves. I don't think it's 82% of Words with Friends 2 players. I think it's more like about 4% of Words with Friends 2 players, based on all the metrics that we're seeing about how many people are allowing tracking on iOS. But yeah, I think this is just a persuasion technique. We saw this from Facebook. We saw it from Instagram. WhatsApp is getting really interesting with this, right? Where they're going to start taking features away if you don't let them track you. So there's that. That gets interesting. But yeah, this is not it would be better if the app could pull the OS. Maybe the app can pull the OS and find out if you have, the option to even allow them to ask you turned on, but they don't want to do that. They want to try and persuade you into turning it on, and more power to them. But thankfully we're here to have these conversations. I still have yet to turn on. I do have the option to allow them to ask me enabled. And that's simply because, we do this show and I like to watch that stuff. But so far, 7 apps have asked me, John: Facebook, Instagram, Speedtest, Ticketmaster, TripIt, TV Time, and Twitter. And again, this is them asking to track you when you're using other apps and websites, not their own app. Their own app gets to track you all the time that you're using their own app because it's their own app. So if you want Ticketmaster to track you inside of Ticketmaster's app, well, you don't like you've given them permission by launching the app. That's all that needs to happen there. This is across apps. So yeah. So I haven't given permission to anything to track me across other apps. Have you? I think you said you gave like something permission, right?
Yeah.
Who did you give permission to?
Like Redbox and.
All right.
Yeah, because I get useful notifications. Yeah, if an app asks me and I'm like, oh yeah, that's, I've gotten a notification that I found useful, then I'm like, yeah, sure, track me.
Like what notification have you gotten from Redbox? Yeah, no, and it's like it's an eyes wide open decision. I'm just now curious. Like, what notification has Redbox given you that came from them being able to track you in other apps?
I think if it knows if I'm near one of their kiosks, it may remind me, hey,
No, that's location tracking. That's not cross app. You could turn off cross app tracking to get location tracking there. Yeah. Yeah, no, this is not universal tracking. This is tracking when you're using other apps. So for example, Redbox could know that you purchased a Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy book. And then they might recommend that movie to you, right? Like that would be potentially what they'd be able to do with cross-app tracking, or that you visited a Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy website or something like that. That's what that would do. But location tracking, that's a whole different thing. You control that in location preferences. Yeah. So like Ticketmaster, I give the option to track my location so that it can pop up my ticket when I'm outside of a concert venue, for example. But that has nothing to do with cross app. So yeah, you could turn off cross app for Redbox. My guess is you'd still get those notifications. So,
all right,
it's fascinating. You want to take us to, while we're on the privacy protection thing, you want to take us to Luann?
Yeah. Luann says, I recently tried to install some Adobe apps on my Mac and I kept getting an error message from Adobe. Reading the logs and help pages, I could not figure this out until I finally stumbled on a page explaining system integrity protection and how to disable it. Following instructions, I turned it off. I was able to install my apps and then turned it back on. Apparently, this has been a problem since 2017. My question is this a problem on Adobe's side of things, or is this an Apple problem? Or is it a problem on my end with perhaps an old corrupted install file from years ago? I would like to understand this for future problems. I think you had something to say about this, Dave, here. I personally, I only use Adobe Reader. So I don't really live in the Adobe world, but I don't know. It makes me nervous that you have to do this to install. I'm not sure what piece of Adobe software they're trying to install. I have not run into this personally.
No, I haven't run into it either. But I did a search for Adobe and system integrity protection and found a help article from Adobe that says when installing Creative Cloud desktop apps, you need to give correct permissions to the /TMP folder. And they discuss, what the symptoms are that this causes. And they say if you can't change the permissions on the /TMP folder, then you might need to disable system integrity protection so that you can give the correct permissions to the /TMP folder. But the thing is, it shouldn't be using that folder in that way. No, there's other temp folders that you are supposed to use. And I don't know why the installers have like a sandbox temp folder that they are permitted to write to. It's not a problem. I don't know why Adobe is obsessing about using like what one would call the Unix standard temp folder, which is at /TMP. It could be argued that Apple is breaking Unix conventions by securing that, but there are like if you want to look at holes in Unix and how to like sneak yourself root access onto a Unix machine, especially if you rewind like 20 years, the temp folder was the place to go and do this because it's world writable. You could get the root user to execute something that was living in the temp folder that you could then write to. Like it's the source of a lot of Swiss cheese in Unix. So locking it down a little bit, like I get why this might be something that Apple wanted to lock down, but they created a better path. Adobe's just not following it, evidently. So yeah, I'm with short version. I'm with you. Shouldn't have to do this, but you might have to. And I put this article that I found in the show notes so that if Luann wants it, it's right there. So,
thank you.
Yeah, man. Yes. All right. Steve points out something that I had not yet seen, and this is the beauty of WWDC and all those developer sessions. There's so much beyond the keynote. There's three. When we talked with Dave Mark, we had watched what I call parts 1 and 2 of the WWDC keynote. We watched the keynote and the State of the Union. There is then, of course, part 3, which is John Gruber's talk show where he interviews a couple of Apple execs. There's always good information in there. Like, for example, that even if you're not an iCloud Plus subscriber, you will still have all of the known trackers, all the trackers that Safari knows about will be run through iCloud Private Relay. So those are running through iCloud Private Relay 100% of the time if they can, whether or not you are an iCloud Plus subscriber. And iCloud Plus just means you are paying something for iCloud, 99 cents a month or more for more storage is essentially what that turns into. So that was a good little tidbit from the talk show, and I will put that in the show notes. I'll link to that in the show notes. Another thing that John Gruber pointed out, he sent a link to my article about iCloud Private Relay, so thank you, John. And he had trouble turning it on his computer, and so I will link to his little piece that explains how to enable iCloud Private Relay. Really, it's I think it needs to just sync up with the system. My guess is this is an iCloud or an iOS beta issue. It's not going to happen when when the release comes out, but it will tell you, even if you're already a subscriber, it'll say you have to subscribe. If you just back out of things and come back in or reboot your phone, it will sync back up and you will have iCloud Private Relay and all that good stuff. So thank you for that too, John. This next thing was not in any of the 3 parts of the keynote, but this comes from Steve, which he found. I guess actually he found it over on Mac Rumors, but they found it in the documentation for one of the sessions at WWDC that Apple introduced a new MailKit framework for mail extensions. Now, to me, this was huge news because mail plugins have been one of these things that have been tolerated, but really not supported by Apple. Like all the people that make all the mail plugins that John and I talk about on the show, or Dave Mark talked about one, like those people are basically on their own to figure out how to do what they do. Like Apple does not have a whole lot of support for them. Well, now they do, but these plugins are limited, or the frameworks are limited in macOS Monterey, but they have 4 categories that mail extensions can use. Compose, so things that are for when composing email, actions that like custom rules for incoming mail, such as color coding an email or moving it to a separate inbox or marking it as read or flagged, right? Content blocking and message security, so extensions that can sign or encrypt email. So I'm not sure if something like Signature Profiler could work, but actually I guess it could, John, because that's composing an email, right? That's one of the ones that we use is Compose. I don't know if things like sending an email on a delay would work still, which is something Mail Act On does, because the rules, these actions are only, it says in Apple's documentation, only applicable to incoming emails. But the fact that Apple has created these and hopefully will expand them, to me, is a really good thing. But we'll see what our mail plugin developers friends think about this, and we'll go from there. But thank you for sending that in, Steve. It's good stuff. So I don't know. What do you think about that, John? Any thoughts?
As long as my plugins still work.
Yeah, that's the thing. So I think
I agree with you. Is that every time they make the slightest change to mail, it always yells at you about, oh, your plugins are not compatible anymore, or you got to install new ones.
Sure. As I understand it, I did a little bit of digging. As I understand it, there haven't been a whole lot of framework changes about mail plugins in Monterey. And which is good news in that it seems like any plugins that we currently use for mail will likely survive the transition to Monterey. Now, the question is, will the next version of macOS, so the 2022 version of macOS, presuming they do another version next year, will that support mail plugins as we currently know them? It will certainly support these new types of extensions, but will it support mail plugins? That we don't know. So the days may be numbered on those. In fact, I think they probably are numbered on those, but they're not, they're more than 365. The number is greater than 365, but may not be that much greater than 365. So we will find out. Thanks, Steve. Want to bring us to John?
We got a head scratcher from John here. For many months, I've noticed that the startup chime on my 2019 iMac sounds distorted. I tried things like PRAM reset, SMC reset, but they didn't fix it. From searching on Google, I found a suggestion of toggling on and off the startup chime checkbox on system preferences, but that didn't help. I contacted Apple support, and they instructed me to carry out similar things, which didn't help. The internal speakers, let's see. The internal speakers are capable of playing sound once the system is booted without any issues.
Okay, that's good.
This occurred before I installed Big Sur, and the upgrade to Big Sur didn't make any difference. In terms of audio, I have Loopback installed and use the Apogee Element 24 with its drivers installed. But as far as I recall, these issues existed before adding those, though I could be wrong. It doesn't make any difference if I have my system audio set to internal speakers or the Apogee interface. I vaguely remember something about sound being emitted from the motherboard. No, it's speakers in that machine. Rather than the speakers in some circumstances. But maybe I dreamt that. I think you dreamt that. I was suggested a corrupted firmware, something like this. The Mac is under Apple Care and around 12 months old. Can you think of anything else to try? And he even has a sound clip, which,
I will play it.
Great.
Sounds distorted to me. Let's hear it a third time.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's no bueno. That's no bueno. It's good that his speaker works, because it sounds like a torn speaker cone or something, along those lines. It's definitely distorted.
Or it's like overmodulated.
Well, that's what distorted means. But yes,
yeah.
Right. Yes, yeah, absolutely. Another definition. Right.
It almost sounds like a bad speaker. It's just weird that it only handles with the startup chime.
Right.
PRAM and SMC, yeah, those are always good things to try. I think it may be bad firmware or a corrupted driver. So maybe reinstalling the OS.
Is the startup chime even included with the OS? I thought that was on the firmware. I mean, I suppose it could write it to the firmware, maybe, but it doesn't sound like a driver or anything. I mean, the OS isn't anywhere near even beginning to be loaded when we hear that sound, right? So it's definitely stored in the firmware. That's weird.
So that's my thought. Sometimes what you will notice is every now and then when you do a software update, you may notice the progress bar. Sometimes it's thick. As far as I know, that means that it's doing a firmware update in addition to a OS update.
Sure.
So that's why I think trying to reinstall from recovery, maybe that's all I got. Or the speaker. Maybe the speaker's bad. I don't know. There's some weird resonance thing with the speaker. Maybe replace the speaker.
But he says the speaker works to play music, right? I mean, but it could be like, excuse me, I have a speaker down in my office. It's a set of Audio Engine A2s. I believe it's the A2s, maybe the A2 pluses. I don't know, whatever. It's one of those, the smaller versions of theirs. And one of the cones on one of the speakers is like a little bit torn, and there's a certain frequency where I hear it. But the rest of the time, it's like crystal clear and sounds fantastic. So, like, it could be that they're, that it's just that little speaker on the motherboard is torn, and whatever note in that chord that plays resonates the wrong way with that particular speaker. But either way, Apple Care is your friend here. Like, that's where I would go with it. So, Jawohl. All right, where are we here? You want to go to Ken?
Ken, yeah. Okay, I've noticed on 2 iMacs with multiple users, each iMac has only one admin account. All software is updated by the user account, which enters the supervisor password when required. I've noticed that other users are being asked to upgrade what has already been upgraded. So do I ignore the notification or do the upgrade? To me, it sounds like a wonky installer. I haven't had something ask me, install for all users or installs for specific users. So I'd be curious what vendor, but you maybe see if they have a newer installer.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with all of your advice. Yes, let every user do the installation because there might be something that it's putting in the user folder that it needs access to. It shouldn't be, but you don't know. And if you want the app to work properly, yeah, but that's weird. I agree. Contact the developer. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Moving on. Okay. I asked for advice in 2 episodes. We've talked about advice for me for capturing notes while on the go with my watch. I think this will be the last conversation about it, but the last one for a while. But I did get 2 pieces this week, John, that I wanted to share. Loren wrote in, Siri will let you add text to a specific note if you're really scared of filling her notes with a bunch of unrelated scraps. Just have her add text to a previous note. And I tried this. Thank you, Loren. It works. If I say, Siri, add prep next week's Mac Geek Gab to idea capture note, then it will add that as a new line to a note named idea capture. So that works. And thank you. It's awesome. Makes a big difference. However, I was happy about that. Really happy. And for about an hour. And then I read Andre's note. And Andre's note was the key. He says, I'm listening to the show and thinking of how I can help with your text myself idea. First, create a reminders list. So this is outside of notes, but it's fine. Bear with me here. Create a reminders list called ideas. Create a shortcut. Call it brain. Add a dictation step in the workflow. Choose add reminder to ideas with the magic variable being input from the dictation and save it. Then just say, Siri, brain, dictate your idea, and it will pump it into a reminder in your reminders list called ideas. So this is brilliant. I didn't want it in a reminders list. I wanted it in a note, but I know that I can put it in a note based on the last tip, right? So stitch it all together. And I created a shortcut, John. And so now my shortcut is I say, Siri, I have an idea. And from there, I do the dictate text thing. And then I had to put in a nothing step. Don't know why, just to separate things out. Then I had to find the note called idea capture and then append the dictated text to the note that I called Idea Capture, and boom, it works perfectly. So now I'm on my bike. I can say, Siri, I have an idea. And boom, it says, what do you want to say? And I say it, and it pumps it into the note, and I'm good. It's pretty awesome. So thank you to both Loren and Andre for getting us there. It's good stuff. I like it. Pretty cool, huh, John? Have you messed with shortcuts at all?
Not really.
Oh man, I like these are right up your alley. I think you'd love them. I really do. All right, where are we here on time? We are at 55. We can do a couple more questions, and we'll do some cool stuff found. Listener Tim asks, today my USB-C charger for my MacBook Pro got stolen, along with my MagSafe charger for my iPhone 12. Well, that sucks, Tim. I'm sorry to hear that. He says, so I need to replace them. I'm looking for advice. Should I go through Apple for a standard replacement equipment, or are there other options that come from third parties? So again, sorry to hear it. The good news is that now that we live in the USB-C world, you do not need to buy Apple-specific chargers for your MacBook Pro. For your MagSafe charger for your iPhone 12, I think you probably are still in an Apple world. I haven't seen any third-party MagSafe clone chargers that I would trust. There's plenty of Qi chargers, so obviously you can go that route. But if you want MagSafe, I think you need to go with Apple. But as far as powering your MagSafe charger, that's USB-C on the other end, so you can go with anything. I'm a big fan of what Anker's doing. There's a lot of other brands out there that are also doing great things. Just make sure they're a trustworthy third party, not some fly-by-night company. But there's plenty of them out there. There's good ones. Just make sure that both the charger and, as we've recently discussed, the cable that you buy deliver enough power to charge your MacBook Pro. You can look in Mac Tracker to see what your computer's original equipment charger delivered. And I would suggest matching that at a minimum. Some are going to require 85 watts at a minimum. Some are going to require 40 watts at a minimum. Those minimums are not necessarily hard and fast minimums. Certainly I have charged a MacBook Pro that came with a 85 watt charger with a 60 watt, and it's totally fine. But there might be occasions, especially if you're using the computer while it's charging, where you do want that minimum level of charge to be available. So just make sure you're getting one that matches that. But for your MagSafe, those tiny little things that I forget, I think it's the PowerPort Nano 3. I want to say I'll find it and put a link in the show notes, but it's that thing that Anker makes that's like the size of the original little tiny iPhone charger, but it's 20 watts of USB-C power delivery, which is awesome. So hopefully that helps. And it sucks that your stuff got stolen. So I don't know. What do you have to add?
I got the, so for MagSafe, I have Apple's.
Sure.
And then, I'm with you, Anker. So I got one that I think is, so it has 2 USB-A and 2 USB-C, and I think it's rated at 85 watts.
Okay.
And it'll split it among the various ports intelligently. From what I understand.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I did though. Yeah, you want to make sure you get a good cable. Because I actually found that some cables will limit the amount of current that they carry, or power. And the reason I knew that is I went in iStat Menus has one of their menus will show you the various power levels on the machine, including the total wattage.
Sure.
So what I did is once I started charging it, DC Init's listed at. I looked at the number and I'm like, hey, wait, there's something wrong with this cable. It's not delivering 85 watts. And then, I got a better cable and it did. So, iStat Menus, I'm not sure if that's in System Info also.
Right.
Maybe it is. But
his issue is he doesn't have his original one, so that's why I was like, go ahead and look it up in Mac Tracker and then you'll get yourself there. So it's the Anchor Nano that I was thinking of, not the Nano 3. Maybe the Nano 3 is coming. I don't know. Maybe I just made up a new product for them. The original Anchor Nano is a 20-watt power supply. Again, these are all pretty much the same size as the tiny little brick. The Nano 2, the base model, is 30 watts. They have a 45-watt model, and they have a 65-watt model, all in that really tiny form factor. So again, I'll put a link to all of it in the show notes. You can figure it out. So, all right. Where are we here? You want to take us to Patricia, John?
Yeah. Okay. Friends, what's going on here? 10.15.7 in iMac and Safari 14.1. When I opened Google Maps yesterday, I got a greatly magnified version that is just not workable. Everything is enlarged, and the same goes for using Google Search. Zoom does not improve the text situation. I can open the same pages in Chrome, and text and images are as they should be. Although the pages in Safari load correctly, it's only Google that's reacting this way. I've done restarts, closed Safari, checked system preferences. It all comes down to Google not playing nice at all in Safari. Currently unusable. Is there a setting somewhere I'm missing, or is Google once again broken with the latest update? No.
I don't think Google's broken.
Yeah, no, it worked fine for me, but I'll tell you where to look, because actually I was having a problem with a financial site. It just wouldn't let me log in. Or we keep going in circles. Bringing me back to the login page. Once I had, or LastPass had entered my credentials, and I'm like, why does it keep going in circles? I then remember that at some point I said, remember me. So what I think is it planted a cookie. So here's what I think I think it may be a corrupt cookie or other piece of data stored in the browser. So here's where you go. Safari, preferences, privacy, manage website data. You will then see a list of all the data that is stored for each of the sites that you have visited. So I type in Google and whack all of that data. This worked for me. This solved my login problem by whacking all of the data stored that the site had stored in the past.
I like it. That's great. One warning I will share: that page or that preference pane has two buttons at the bottom. One is remove and the other is remove all. Even once you've filtered down, I have yet to test to see if remove all only removes what your search filter is showing, or if it removes everything in the list in its entirety. So I always highlight them and click remove, and I stay far away from the remove all button. Your mileage may vary. If somebody knows the answer, feedback@macgeekgab.com, please. But I have yet to test that. So I just wanted to share that little thought there. So
feedback@macgeekgab.com.
I think it's feedback@macgeekgab.com. I agree.
So that's one thing. Another one is our pal OnyX can help clean things up. And where I'd look there would be maintenance, cleaning, options, internet. And then choose the things within that category that could help. And then finally, starting up in safe mode can never hurt, and sometimes gets rid of cached junk as well.
Sure.
So,
yeah.
Or I think it rebuilds kernel extensions or something like that. But,
Yeah. Yeah, no, you're right.
So among those three, one of them has to work, I hope.
I hope so. Yeah. You could always try in a different browser just to see. I'm not sure if she said she did that, but just to confirm that it's not some setting in your Google account. I think your cookie thing is the right answer. But yeah, cool. All right. Yeah, sure. We'll do two little tips and then we'll jump to cool stuff found and see how far we get. Listener Steve shares a little bit more. We were talking in the last episode about Office 365 and the $99 per year family plan. He says, Dave, you mentioned that you also get Word, Excel, and PowerPoint. In addition to those, you get Outlook, which is surprisingly good on a Mac. I used to hate Outlook, he says, but it is dramatically improved. It's worth a try, especially if you use the included email, Outlook.com, with things like add an email rule. And it syncs to the web client, which means it essentially syncs to all of your devices. Why hasn't Apple done this, he says. I know it isn't cool to use Microsoft products, and they used to be awful, but they've done a really good job of improving them. Additionally, it's a pretty good value for the money, as you pointed out. You get all the following for 6 devices. Outlook, 1 terabyte of OneDrive service per user, storage rather. Teams, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, OneNote, To-Do, Family Safety, Calendar, which is in Outlook, and then Skype. So thank you for that, Steve. Yeah, it's a pretty impressive thing for $99 a year for the entire family. That's the price that it should be. Like that, like there's good value there. I really, it's nice to see that because it used to be a lot more money than that. Let's just point that out. All right. Any thoughts to share on that before we share Matt's tip here, John?
Nope.
Okay, cool. Matt was one of the ones who, like me, was suffering battery drain on our iPhones. And Matt, my issue turned out to be, what did I say it was? I can't even remember anymore. Somebody out there will remember for me. But Matt found that his issue was Wi-Fi was causing his problems. Oh, mine was reset network settings. I reset network settings and my problems went away. Matt did that. They went away for a little bit and then they came back. He found when he had his phone plugged in that, you go to the options for it, which you do in the Finder now. And there's the checkbox that used to be there in iTunes that says, show this phone when on Wi-Fi. Having that box checked immediately starts his battery draining. Unchecking it immediately stops the excessive drain. So that's another one. I did find that I could get mine to drain again if I turned on iMazing's Wi-Fi backups. So I turned those off too, and I just let it do iCloud, and it'll do iMazing when I plug in, but not over Wi-Fi. And that has done it. So reset network settings. I'm glad I remembered. Turn off show this phone when on Wi-Fi in the Finder, and then make sure you're managing your Wi-Fi with iMazing. So thank you, Matt. Great stuff. I appreciate you sharing that. It's good. All right. Let's go to cool stuff found, shall we, John?
Sure.
Okay. Loren starts us off. I tried using Spotlight to find misplaced applications, and it seems to find everything except what I want. As a test, I tried searching on M for mail. It brought up my laser printer, Keyboard Maestro, and messages. I tried expanding it to MA, and it found Migration Assistant User. I found that if you assign Launchpad to a keyboard shortcut, say Control Space. So this is built into Mac OS, right? This is Launchpad. But if you assign it to a keyboard shortcut like Control Space, it will act exactly like Spotlight, but search only applications. So this is where it gets interesting. And it will, without doing things like, the documents and the folders and the web searches and dictionary searches. He says Spotlight is good at a great many things. It's not so great as an app launcher. Launchpad is much better. All right, I got to try this. So yeah, that's a really smart thing to do the keyboard shortcut for Spotlight. I like this. That's a good little hack. I'm not sure if that's a quick tip for a cool stuff found, but I'm glad we mentioned it. Thank you for that, Loren. Michael, go ahead. Oh, sorry, John. Did you have something to add to that?
Just to point out here, you can, if you go to System Preferences, Spotlight, search results will dictate what is shown in the pull down. So you could just uncheck everything except applications. Just to the point that there's all sorts of. This is how you control what stuff is seen.
That fair point. Yep, that's right. That's great advice. Yeah, good. Michael says, I heard you talk about how you have your data backed up, and in a disaster, you would probably build a new Mac and restore your data. Then you mentioned that getting your app configurations back to where they were can be a time-consuming process. there is a free open source cool. Well, it's a cool tool for backing up Mac and Linux .files. Speaking thing, not so easy for me today. It's called YADM, yet another .file manager at yadm.io. It's very well supported and would likely solve your problem of getting all your configs rebuilt. And it also works on Linux. Thank you for that. We will put a link to that in the show notes, Michael. You rock. Pretty cool. YADM. I didn't know that there were other .file managers. So this one, as yet another, comes as, it's kind of new to me. Craig, John, has found something that he calls more of a cool deal found than cool stuff on Amazon for about $30. I found this, essentially an Apple Pencil. We'll use the word clone, but it's not an exact clone. But it clones a lot of the functionality of an Apple Pencil, and you can get it for about $30 on Amazon. He said, initial impression is that it is 100% feature equivalent to the Apple Pencil 1, about half price of what you'd pay for an Apple Pencil 1. And it is charged over USB-C, which is cool. It just plugs into the side of it, so you're not trying to plug it into the Lightning port and breaking it off your Mac. But he says if you're new to using the Apple Pencil or just got an iPad and want something for the kids or casual use, this might be the ticket. So thank you, Pensacola Craig, for sharing that with us. That's pretty good. We'll put a link in the show notes so you can check it out for yourself. But I like it. I like it. Pretty good. This is what Cool Stuff Found is about. John Scott shares something called, I think it's called Strautomator. It says you often talk about on the show about riding your bike. He says, I clock about 150 miles a week, and I thought you would want to know about an app that I use called for Strava. So Strava is a tracker for your either cycling or running, and perhaps other things. And it's called Strautomator. Strautomator takes the data from your Strava recorded rides and puts it directly into any calendar you choose. I've attached a screenshot, which he showed us today's ride, and it has all kinds of things. It says he rode 30 miles and he had a climbing ratio of 1.04. The temperature was this. It shows what bike he rode, his average speed. All of that is put into a calendar entry, which is pretty cool. He says, it's become one of my favorite calendar additions. I don't need to go back to Strava anymore to see historical data from my past rides. Very cool. I stopped using Strava when Apple's health app, or fitness app, I should say, got better. In talking back and forth with Scott, Apple's app isn't quite detailed enough for someone that enjoys being obsessive about these things. I am someone, you know this from knowing me and listening to me for years, but I do enjoy obsessing about things. My cycling, tracking my bike rides is not one that I'm overly obsessive about, but it is nice. Like, I do like using the Apple Watch to just track the ride, and you get credit for it. It's great. It's good. So I don't know, but this looks cool. Do you still use Strava? You were the one that turned me onto that years ago, John.
I haven't used it in a while, but yeah, I would log my bike rides and or like long walks, like when I used to go to Manhattan.
Sure,
I would log my walk from Grand Central to the Javits.
Sure, and
share it with people because people want to know these things.
Right, that's true. Strava does have that. It's a social network type style element to it as well, where you can see what your friends are riding or walking or biking or whatever. So yeah. Well, cool. We talked a long time ago, John. I have one cool stuff found on my own to add. We talked a long time ago where I was asking how people are tracking what they are watching, what shows they're watching, because with things spread all across, the problem that TiVo solved for me years ago is no longer solved by TiVo. I don't just have one now playing list that shows me everything. And so I wound up downloading a bunch of apps, and I gravitated towards one called TV Time. It's available it's on the web, but it's also, of course, on iPhone, Android, all that good stuff. It just works for me. It lists the shows. It will tell me what I can watch next, so it knows when new episodes are available of the shows that I watch. It also pays attention to if I've stopped watching a show, like if I haven't checked off a new episode recently, it'll eventually move those into a shows you haven't watched recently category. It really, like, it has helped us because there's shows we just forget that we're watching. It's like, oh, right, we were watching that show. It just, you know, if it was in like Amazon Prime is one that we don't use as frequently as, say, you know, Apple TV Plus or Netflix. And so we would just forget about a show that was in there. I was like, oh, yeah, you know, we can watch that show. That's great. So, or if, you know, we have shows, some that we, you know, have ripped into Plex or whatever. So this has been fantastic. So it's called TV Time. Near as I can tell, I think it's free. I don't think I paid for it. I might have paid for it. I don't know. But it works. Whatever I paid for it, it was worth it. So there you go. That's what I got. You got anything else for today, John? Is that our thing? How do you track what you watch on TV?
I don't.
Yeah. Yeah, right. That's the problem.
I mean, I got my shows on my TiVo, so I watch a lot of shows that I get through cable. Disney, you know, they're pretty good about saying, "Hey, here's a new show. Hey, here's a new show."
Sure. Oh yeah, each
Netflix.
service, right? Each service is great about remembering what I'm watching and show me the next episode. It's just that when I sit down to watch something, I don't want to have to go through 4 services to decide, or, you know, launch 4 different apps to decide, okay, what do I want to watch? So it's great. I'd launch one app on my phone. I look at it. Lisa and I talk about, oh, let's watch this. Okay, great. Sounds good. Off we go. So we've been enjoying City on a Hill. I think it's on Showtime. Again, I don't even remember where these things are. It might be the best role Kevin Bacon has ever played. It's been fantastic. So well, it's about Boston cops, but he's an FBI agent, but still, you know, it's good stuff. All right. That's what I got. It's time to bring in the band, John. Thanks for listening, everybody. Thanks for hanging out with us. Thanks for sending in your stuff to feedback@macgeekgab.com.
Feedback@macgeekgab.com.
Feedback@macgeekgab.com. I figure we do it 3 times, so we did it 3 times of 3 times. So we cubed it.
3 to the third? No, 3 to the third.
3 to the third? No. I don't know.
It's too much.
It's too much. It's too much. This math stuff's hard, John. Stick to the computers. Yeah. Thanks for hanging out with us. Thanks for it all. Great tips today. Really great tips this week, folks. Like, you're killing it. Killing it. Make sure to check out the Mac Geek Gab forums. We got a lot of you that are sharing some more in-depth things in the forum. So make sure you go check those out at macgeekgab.com/forums. Anywhere you want to send them, my friend?
Twitter. So he is Dave Hamilton. I am John F. Braun. There's a couple others. Mac Observer, Mac Geek Gab, and Pilot Pete. You want to find out what he's doing.
I think we might be able to get Pete back into a semi-irregular schedule. I emailed him the other night. So, yeah, it'd be good to have him back, for sure. All right. Thanks again, folks. Fun times. Make sure to check out our sponsors. Of course, the ones we mentioned here in the episode. Headspace.com/MGG. Linode.com/MGG. Of course, Fastmail.com/MGG. Make sure you check out smilesoftware.com/podcast, maxsales.com, barebones.com, eero.com/MGG. Thanks for hanging out. I don't know what else to say, John. Do you have anything else to say?
I know exactly what to say, Dave, and that is don't get caught.
Made up.